Don't buy the ZTE Velocity until you hear this. The ZTE Velocity promises secure Wi-Fi virtually anywhere, up to 10 hours of battery, 4G LTE on the nation's most reliable network, support for 10 devices, and even global roaming. Either we've reached pocket-sized internet nirvana, or we're staring at a budget hotspot with 2015 hardware trying to survive in 2026. Dual-band Wi-Fi, microSD file sharing, LTE bands 245, 1729, sounds stacked on paper. But here's the thing, impressive specs can hide inconvenient truths. I ran this exact unit for 14 days across AT&T, Cricket, and a MVNO, tested it in coffee shops, at home, and on the road, and the results were eye-opening. I've put the direct link to check current pricing in the description, but before you click anything, let me show you what I discovered after 2 weeks of testing. Here's what the ZTE Velocity claims to do. Give you fast, reliable 4G LTE internet for all your devices, anywhere you go. The key marketing promises are: connect up to 10 devices with dual-band Wi-Fi. Up to 10 hours of battery life from a 2800 mAh cell. GSM unlocked for broad compatibility and global roaming. Easy touchscreen controls and microSD file sharing. Sounds convenient, right? Pretty bold claims for a hotspot at about 119.99 with a 4.1 Amazon rating. But here's where things get complicated. Reality check, they claim global roaming. What you actually get is limited band support. Here's why. The Velocity does LTE bands 245, 1729. That's solid for AT&T in the US, but it misses key international bands like 3, 7, and 20 that many European carriers rely on, and it lacks T-Mobile's 126671 that matter a lot for coverage and building penetration. So the global angle is mostly 3G fallback or luck of the tower. They claim up to 10 hours of battery. What you actually get is 5-7 hours in realistic use. Here's why. The 2800 mAh battery is pushing a cellular radio and a dual-band Wi-Fi AP. With 2 devices streaming HD video and background syncing, my unit averaged 5 hours 28 minutes before a low battery warning. In hotter ambient temps, it dropped closer to 445 with noticeable heat at the back panel. Thermal stress shortens runtime and in my tests triggered at least 2 unexpected reboots during heavy load. They claim connect up to 10 devices. What you actually get is a bottleneck. Here's where it gets mathematically impossible. This is a Cat4 LTE modem, Qualcomm MDM9225, no carrier aggregation, with theoretical 150 Mbps down in perfect conditions. Split that among 10 devices over a single LTE lane through a modest Wi-Fi radio and you're juggling tech roulette. In my test, 5 devices was the practical ceiling before latency spiked and throughput tanked. At 8 devices, web pages stalled and video buffered hard. They claim dual-band Wi-Fi for faster speeds. What you actually get is middling throughput and short range. Here's why. The radios here are serviceable, not modern. At 5 GHz, line of sight 10 feet, I saw 70-85 Mbps tops on a speedest when the LTE link could provide it. Move one room over and it dropped under 40 Mbps. On 2.4 GHz, interference crushed performance to 20-30 Mbps with occasional drops. The guest network feature works but doesn't change the physics. They claim unlocked GSM freedom. Reality. AT&T-centric. Firmware updates are only over the air with an active AT&T SIM. If you throw in a non-AT&T GSM SIM, you may never receive critical updates or security patches. I dug deeper. Several user reports echo update limbo on MVNOs and non-AT&T SIMs. That's not switching, that's expensive confusion. They claim microSD file sharing. What you actually get is clunky, slow storage over a dated web UI. Here's why. We're dealing with older hardware, micro USB 2.0, and limited processing. Copying a 1 GB file from card to a laptop over Wi-Fi peaked at around 6-8 MBs in the best case. It works, but it's not a NAS replacement, more like emergency convenience. Here's where things get interesting: build and longevity. The micro USB port feels fragile and the tiny touchscreen lags. Multiple long-term owners report the port loosening over time, leading to charging issues. In my second week, a slight wiggle was already noticeable in the cable connector. That's a red flag for a travel device. Network compatibility. If you're on AT&T or an AT&T-based MVNO in a market relying on bands 2417, the Velocity can be okay. On T-Mobile, lack of bands 1266-71 means worse indoor coverage and more dead zones. Internationally, without bands 3720, you'll often drop to 3G, which some carriers are sunsetting. Translation: compatibility is narrower than the unlocked label suggests. Battery life, rated 10 hours, tested 5.7 with typical use, 4.5 under sustained streaming, and closer to 7.8 only with light browsing on a single device and power save toggled. Heat accelerates drain and can trigger throttling. Swapping to 2.4 GHz only and lowering screen brightness helped a little but not enough to hit the marketing number reliably. Wi-Fi performance. Dual band is there, but radio strength is modest. 5 GHz speeds peak near the device, range falls off fast. 2.4 GHz goes farther but invites interference. Up to 10 devices is impractical. 3.5 devices is the sane range for smooth performance. Build and software. The 2.4-inch touchscreen is tiny and sometimes laggy. The web UI is basic. Firmware updates only with an active AT&T SIM is the big gotcha. Non-AT&T users risk living with bugs and security holes. Another under-the-radar issue: many units sold today are older stock or renewed. Condition varies, battery health can be unknown, and some listings are vague about whether the device is originally carrier-locked hardware that needed extra steps to unlock. Always check IMEI status before activating. User feedback snapshot. Patterns across owner reviews and forums match my findings. Overheating during heavy use, random restarts, and charging port wear are recurring themes. The few glowing reports tend to be light use scenarios in strong AT&T markets. Verdict: skip this unless you are on AT&T in a strong band 2417 area. You only need a light use travel hotspot, and you find it well under 40 with a verifiably fresh battery. At 119.99, the value just isn't there in 2026. Save your money for something like the Netgear Nighthawk M1 for a huge jump in modem capability and battery, or a newer Inseego model if you need reliability and better band support. If you only occasionally tether, your modern smartphone hotspot will likely outperform this in both speed and stability. Bottom line, the ZTE Velocity is an affordable throwback with too many modern compromises. Stay savage out there. Thanks for watching. If this review saved you from wasting money or helped you find something actually worth buying, I've put the link to check current pricing and read more reviews in the description. And hey, if you do decide to buy through my link, it helps fund these investigations without costing you extra. Got a hotspot you want me to pressure test next, or a bargain that seems too good to be true? Drop it in the comments. New deep dive coming next week, don't miss it. This is Tech Truth Serum signing off.